After a slow start, guess which Western Conference team has won 5 of their last 7? If you said the San Jose Sharks, you are right. JD Young of Locked On Sharks is here to talk about the reasons for the team's turnaround and the latest on Macklin Celebrini. We've got all that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the great JD Young of Locked On Sharks. And JD, a nice time for Sharks fans after a slow start. This team is kind of finding their stride a little bit.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they won 5 of their last 7. They hung on to win against the Devils tonight after a 44-save performance from former Devil, McKenzie Blackwood. And yeah, this team is really kind of after a brutal start, like going 0-9, brutal start. But this team has really kind of found their groove under Ryan Warsofsky. You have a lot of young players kind of starting to find their strides, and a lot of new pieces kind of coming together and starting to gel right now.
What's been the biggest difference between the slow start and the better play we've seen recently?
Even if you look at the slow start, it was actually just a lot of unluckiness. Like, they were doing a lot of things, but again, like, this team is still a very talent poor team, and the margin of error just isn't very high. But they've been kind of getting some more breaks going their way, and this team, I think, has started games much better than they have, especially in the first 9 games. And I think that's really been a credit to them. They've been one of the teams that, most games they actually have been, especially during this 7-game performance, they've been the one that's scoring first. And for them, since they're scoring first, they can kind of dictate terms a little bit as best you can as a basement team, dictate terms, but you've been able to kind of see them build off of that. And I think new pieces like Jake Wallman, Timothy Liljegren, those guys are kind of starting to, get their footing under them. Some of the guys that they signed in free agency, like Alex Wenberg and Tyler Toffoli, those guys are finding their role. And then, of course, the big thing is Macklin Celebrini's back. And last time I checked, he's pretty good.
Talk to me about him. I mean, getting him healthy obviously is big, but what is he doing well, and what does he still need to improve upon at this early stage of his career?
Yeah, I mean, the Sharks were very, very deliberate with him, and we are going to make sure he's 100%, and that's right. You want to make sure with an 18-year-old kid, you're thinking about the next 20 years of Macklin Celebrini. You're not thinking about the next 20 games with him. You want to make sure he's set up for success. They want to make sure he's 100% healthy, and he is. You see Celebrini. I mean, he's already the first line center for the Sharks, playing with Tyler Toffoli, and they can be kind of rotating that other wing with him, but he does so many things so well already at such a young age. And I think the thing that really stands out to me is his vision and his ability to just know where guys are on the ice and where they are not, and where guys are going to be, and just his ability to read the game. He does very well on board battles, but you wouldn't expect from an 18-year-old kid who's, he's 190 pounds, 6 foot. Like, you wouldn't expect that. But he holds his own against bigger guys. His transition game, which the Sharks struggle in that area. He is a one-man breakout machine, and his ability to just make everybody in the ice better. He can shoot the bejesus out of the puck. He had a goal against the Wild where no-look goal on Marc-Andre Fleury over the shoulder. Like, he's not even looking, and he just puts it without even trying. He could have walked up there and put it in a better place on a Hall of Famer, Andre Fleury. Like, this guy, it's insane what he can do. He still needs to learn what he can get away with in the NHL, and that'll just come with more experience. But the start to his career has been, other than the injury, it has been a joy to watch him so far.
Talk to me about Will Smith. I know he sat out the Sunday game, and he sat out a few games already, but you told me this is part of a plan for the coaching staff to bring him along slowly.
Yeah, with Will Smith, they've been very deliberate in games that he plays. He has not played back-to-backs, with the Sharks playing a back-to-back on Sunday and Monday. In Philly, they've been very picking the game. Like, you're going to play in this game. We're going to sit you out for this game. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to avoid, one, the rookie wall. You know, how often do we see, especially after Christmas, when guys like Will Smith, who's played 45 games in college, and you're playing basically on the weekends, and then now you have to start playing every night, every other night, like it's 3 out of 4. Like, it starts to wear and tear on these guys. So they're trying to be kind of build him up to that with a goal of him being able to kind of play every night once in the second half of the season. And during this time, he spends extra time, working on drills in the gym, like kind of getting stronger and getting ready with him. So they're being very, very deliberate with him. And I think especially after seeing last year when you saw, Connor Bedard get injured, right? Leo Carlson get injured, Adam Fantilli all get injured. I think the Sharks are trying to be a little bit more protective, knowing that this whole year is just about the development of Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini. So if they can utilize some of these extra times and to get him ready to play the second half, I think that's what they're doing, is trying to kind of push off as best they can that rookie wall, and that way, and also help to prevent injuries for Will Smith.
Talk to me about Mel Granin. He's leading the team in points, tied for the team lead in goals. What has he been doing for this club so far this year?
He has honestly been their best player. And it's crazy to think back to last offseason after the Sharks acquired him and Erik Karlsson, and it felt very much like a throw-in deal kind of piece for the Sharks. But Mel Granin has been the best Sharks player since he arrived here, and he has dragged this team to wins that they probably shouldn't have won. If you go back to they came back, they were down 4-1 to Utah. He scores 2 big goals in that game. Like, at one point, he had scored 4 straight Sharks goals between multiple games. Like, that's how important Mel Granin is. And he's the last year of his deal. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Sharks do with him long term. If a team is willing to give up a first-round pick for Granin, are the Sharks do that? Or are you potentially re-signing him because he's a good player and the Sharks just need more good players, kind of re-sign him for a couple years and as he kind of helps grow this young core. But Granin has been easily the best Sharks player. He's playing a bajillion minutes a night. Like, he's up there among the league leaders in time on ice per game. He's on the PKs, on the power play, whatever the Sharks need him to do. Mel Granin is like, I'm that guy. I got it. And he has easily been their most valuable player, other than, McKenzie Blackwood tonight, but just Granin from night to night. Like, and the thing, like, you never say, like, man, Granin had a bad game tonight. Like, he is steady Eddie every night, and that is exactly what you're looking for from Granin to kind of help show guys like Eklund and Celebrini and Smith how to be professionals and how to be professionals for a very long time.
What are the most important keys for this team to be a better team in February and March than they are right now in October and November?
I think you just need to continue to have your young players develop, right, and hope that they continue to get better. And I think as this team continues to gel and not have as many games where you're trying to hold on to a lead, like we saw against the Devils, right, where you give up 19 shots in the third period. And yes, the Devils are trying everything they can to get back in this game, but how do you kind of have that counter punch? I think that's the next thing that this team needs to work on, is how to develop that counter punch. So yeah, maybe that other team is kind of taking control for a little bit, but can you have that special play where maybe you start something and get something going the other way? And I think that's where, when Celebrini continues to get more comfortable, and once Will Smith continues to get more comfortable, that's what those players do, because they're special players, or they have the prospect to be special players. So I think that's the next thing in the Sharks is not only like how do you win, but then how do you kind of put teams away? I think that's going to be the next step for San Jose as they continue this development year.
Had to feel good for McKenzie Blackwood to beat his former team, and 44 save shutout is pretty incredible.
Yeah, set the Sharks record for most saves in a shutout with that performance. And McKenzie Blackwood, Vitek Vanacek, the numbers aren't the prettiest, but those guys have battled every night behind, again, not the most talent-rich team in the NHL, but just kind of like the Sharks team, like they're going to be in it. They're going to make you work for your wins, and they're going to, like that's kind of the motto of this team right now is like, just play hard for a full 60 minutes. And this team is learning to do that right now. And I think McKenzie Blackwood and Vitek Vanacek, both these guys are kind of, you kind of see the face of that motto. Like, we're just going to hang in there. And if I got to stop 19 shots in the third period, I'm going to stop 19 shots in the third period tonight.
All right, JD, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Of course, you can listen wherever you get podcasts, including this one. You can watch on YouTube as well. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole, and come back tomorrow where Seth and I do all things Western Conference. So, yeah.
All right, JD, thanks so much. Always great talking hockey with you.
Thanks, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. And hockey fans, use your knowledge of your favorite team and hockey in general to place great bets on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League.